Welcome to another episode of Working Class. I'm your host, Attorney Ryan. I am here with one of my good friends and former classmates, actually. We went to law school together, and I think we graduated around the same time.
I think you graduated before me.
Oh, did I? Like a couple of months before you, right? All right. Well, hey, California Western School of Law. Do we have a mascot? I can't say like Go Mustangs or Go.
We do not.
If we had a mascot, it'd probably be like a parking meter.
Probably. Because I got so many parking tickets. It's ridiculous.
That school was so ruthless, especially because I was so broke back then. And I was spending like $30-$40 a month a week on parking, not to mention the tickets. Because remember, finals were 3 hours long, but the meter only went up to 2 hours.
Yep.
So you're just like, all right, finals week, I'm just getting tickets.
I can't even tell you how many tickets I had.
It's ruthless. But anyway, I'm really glad you're here because Deveney Wells-Gibson is an entrepreneur. She has her own law firm where you specialize in family law, divorce, prenuptial agreements. We're going to talk about that a bit. Also a podcaster, Queens with Big Dreams. Check it out. I think you're only 4 episodes in on that one.
4 episodes in.
4 episodes in. So you have a chance to get in on the ground floor, folks. Be an early investor in this journey.
A founding member.
Yeah. And then also an author, right? You have a...
I'm striving to be an author.
Well, you have an ebook out now.
I have an ebook out, but I don't think that's real.
Marriage Legalities for Engaged Couples.
I want like an actual hardcover paperback book.
What's that going to be about?
It's a good question because I'm going back and forth right now with I have an executive assistant and she's helping me with it, whether it's going to be an actual book regarding the finances when it comes to marriages or people trying to get married, they're engaged, what that's going to look like, or making it a workbook and having like activities to do with your spouse.
We'll get that right there.
Oh, I'm going to get this eventually.
No, that's okay.
I'm going to get this eventually.
What kind of activities? We're not doing Sudoku puzzles with each other.
It could, no.
Oh my
it's
God,
going to be like money dates.
Okay,
like money dates.
What does a money date look like?
Money dates meaning like you, once a week, maybe once a month, whatever the frequency they want to use, they get together and they go over their finances.
That, anyone listening, probably their blood pressure spiked a little bit just imagining sitting down with their spouse, or even not their spouse, just their life partner, and saying, oh God, we're going to go over finances.
It's daunting.
Is that a normal reaction to
100.
be a little freaked out? Why are we so freaked out about that?
Because it's taboo. So even just talking about it with someone, no matter how close they are with you, I think there's just some comparison that comes with money, and it just makes people feel very uncomfortable. So
why though? Because as far as I'm concerned, this is just my personal belief. I do not ascribe wealth to any value to a human being. I mean, it's awesome. If you're wealthy, then maybe you deserve some kudos. Maybe you did something really clever to earn all that money and you deserve credit for that. Other people, they were just born to the right family and they didn't do anything particularly special. It's not their fault.
Right.
And then there's some people who are broke, but it's truly not their fault. And there's not a lot they can do. So, I mean, that's my mindset. Why do people feel embarrassed if they have money problems?
I think it's society. It's society. Or even being on Instagram. Like by 30, you should have this much money in your bank account. And
oh my God, I hate those posts.
The average American doesn't have this, but that's what we see constantly. And then it's like we're constantly told that we're not good enough. So then to have a conversation with someone that you're about to marry one day, or maybe if it's a man that you're wanting to support because maybe you're traditional and it's like, am I going to let this person down if they think I don't have enough money to support them, and then maybe a family. So it's just all these little subliminal messages we get online.
Wow.
It's a lot.
Well,
and it's just taboo right now.
Those are the tough conversations that you have to have as the prenup queen.
Yes.
You probably have the most, I don't know what's harder, the prenup conversation or the divorce conversation with these couples.
What's harder, I would say, is actually the prenup conversation when we're talking about money.
Yeah.
It is the hardest.
Because at least with divorce, it's like we've already figured that there's not a lot to lose here. Like we both agreed this needs to end. But with the prenup, I feel like there's everything to lose. If I say the wrong thing, if I disclose my finances and they aren't what she expects, I could lose the whole relationship. It's probably scary.
If I disclose that I'm actually in bukus of debt and they didn't know and what they're about to walk into.
Yeah. Yeah. So I want to shout out quickly your 90 Day Fiancé appearance.
It was Married at First
Married
Sight.
at First Sight.
Married at
My
First
bad.
Sight.
To me, all the shows blend together.
They're the same.
Okay, with Marriage at First Sight, and very cool that you got to be on that show and you had a conversation about the prenup. Why are those conversations hard, and how do you help people?
It's hard because finances are just taboo. So it's hard because no one really wants to talk about money. No one really wants to talk about expectations, even talking about like what your goals are. Some people think their goals are too grand and they don't want to sound silly talking about their goals. Or maybe they realize they're just not all that ambitious and they don't want their partner to think they're lazy. So that's what makes having discussions around prenups pretty hard, because prenups are mostly just assets.
Yeah.
What else? What was your other question?
Well, I think there's a stigma around prenups that we're all very familiar with. The first one is, well, wait a minute, don't you love me? Aren't we forever? Why are you planning for us to fail? What is your response to someone with those objections? Because that's a reasonable emotion.
It is.
It's an emotion I expect people to have. So how do you talk to a couple going through that? Why are we planning to fail? I thought we'd be forever.
The sad truth, because we all want to have a happily ever after. We all truly, hopefully, say, when we say I do, we mean till the end. But the sad reality is that's not the case for almost 50%. The divorce rate is decreasing.
It is.
It is. Yeah, it's
I'm
decreasing.
surprised to hear that. All the talk about Gen Z and dating habits and how people are changing. I was under the impression divorce rates were climbing.
No, they're decreasing. And I think it's because women were now marrying later in life. We're not getting married at 20 years old and then having to find ourselves while we're married, while we're having babies, and while we're trying to progress through womanhood.
And you're growing up with someone who the 20-year-old, let's be quite honest, the 20-year-old boy you married becomes a man, and you may not like that man anymore.
People change.
People do change.
Yep.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. But we're seeing marriages are on the whole lasting more than they did in the past.
Or I would say women, yes. And I can say women are just more themselves and more ready to actually be married, and it's creating longer lasting marriages.
It's really interesting that,
I say women.
Yeah.
Men too.
Well,
Men
you're
too.
coming from the female perspective, so I get that. But also as a divorce professional, it's interesting that you're looking at the woman's experience in the relationship.
They're usually the ones who file for divorce.
I've heard that statistic. Why is it that women are the ones moving for the divorce first more often than men?
I don't know the exact answer to that, but from what I've read or seen, I'm going to say it's because I feel like this is going to be a hot topic, but women just got more rights. We can now do things more without needing men, period.
You can have a credit card.
We can have bank accounts. We can sign contracts. Like, we can actually do things without being dependent on somebody.
We need to point out how recent that is.
I wish I had. It was like the.
I think early 70s is when women were able to open credit cards without a man's approval.
I was gonna say 69, but it might be
69. Honestly, it's right up in there. The point, my grandmother, God rest her soul, she passed this year. Very close with her.
I'm sorry.
I got many beautiful years with her, but thank you. She was born in 27, 28. So women had only been allowed to vote.
Yes.
For maybe, I think, 7 or 8 years when she was born. That is, so it's 2024 now. That would be like, oh, redheads just got to vote in 2016. That's fucking crazy.
It's wild.
And she remembers those days. She couldn't open a credit card without my granddad's signature.
Exactly.
I mean, just basic decisions that people take for granted are much newer than people realize.
Exactly. I don't think people realize just how close that era was where we really didn't have these basic rights. And a lot of people are just like, well, yeah, I can have a credit card. Yeah, I can have a bank account.
I can have financial independence without having to find a man who's 10, 15 years older than me, who's established, who my parents approved of, and this person will take care of me and feed me and give me a home. But if it's abusive, if he doesn't care about me, if he cheats on me, if he lies to me, if he treats me as less than, what am I going to do? Because legally, I'm a second-class citizen out in the world. This man is my livelihood. And literally that was considered traditional. honorable, the way things had been for so long. But I think if we like cut the bullshit for a minute and we see that's actually kind of a scary situation to be. If it's happily ever after, not
good.
Oh, I got nothing against a traditional marriage. You want to be a homemaker and a breadwinner, go for it. But there needs to be some equality. There needs to be autonomy, and there certainly can't be a situation where someone is trapped.
Exactly. Yep. Exactly. So, and that's where like DV victims, domestic violence victims find themselves. And even now in today's world, there's different, and now I'm getting into abuse, but the psychological stronghold it keeps on women, especially financially. Their financial abuse is a real thing, but just to see women be so dependent on a man that they can't even fathom leaving. And I'm like, but we have these new rights. You could literally make your own livelihood if you really wanted to. But they're conditioned right now to think they need a man to survive. So even though we're past the era where we legally were dependent on a man, there are still women out here now who are going through those same things, but on a more mental level.
That is got to be hard to see. Like when you have those initial prenuptial agreement meetings, do you see, well, what do you see more of? Like truly equal dynamics between partners? Do you frequently see one partner has more bargaining power than the other? How does that play out?
Yeah. And I will caveat and say this. Prenups are not just for people who have a lot of money. I understand.
Oh, it's not just for rich people.
It's not just for rich people.
I thought these were rich people. I'm being sarcastic. I thought these were rich people problems. Why would a prenup make sense for just a working class, blue collar guy makes, I don't know, he's not struggling, but he's not rich. He's making 8-9 G's a month, a successful plumber. Why does that guy need a prenup?
So there's so many reasons for a prenup other than divorce. So when you ask me, like, how do I talk to people about the thought of, oh, you're planning for divorce, there's so many other reasons why. Yes, we're going to talk about what happens if a divorce happens, because I got to think bigger picture in order to draft this prenup. But then if someone has a kid from a different relationship, how are we going to protect them? Because you'll have to do estate planning. So you need a prenup in order to do certain type of things with your estate plan.
Yeah.
So I partner a lot with trust and estate attorneys, because then they have to send the people to me to draft a prenup.
Well, and that comes in
post-nup.
if like one partner is sick, injured, incapacitated. You got to plan for those kind of things too.
That too, yeah.
Which could be really useful if, I don't know, you're 20 and the man you're marrying is 87. It's just, you might want to plan for that contingency.
Okay. I've only had one prenup like that.
No.
I've only had one prenup like that, where there is such a big age gap, and I'm just looking at them like.
What's your impression? Because look, some people knock that really hard. I feel like that's one of those things where people look at it and you immediately judge, because this is clearly a transaction. The old 80-year-old rich guy, he just wants a hot young thing to play with. He doesn't care about this person. That's the assumption. We're not in the relationship.
Right.
We don't know. That could be a soulmate.
Exactly.
And then you look at her and say, she's just a gold digger. She didn't care about him. So people judge those relationships quite a bit. But how do they look to you? I mean, what do you think?
Look, I hope my mom doesn't watch this, but I will say.
She's actually our most dedicated fan. She writes daily.
I will say this. One, it's none of my business. They tell me what they want to do. I draft it. They tell me their secrets, their goals, their dreams, whatever. I draft based on that. But at the same time, I already think of marriage as transactional. And
really?
That just, yes. And
I'm
that
not
just
letting
might
you
be,
just say that. We're going to follow up on that later, but finish your thought.
That might just be my legal mind. I think society looks at marriage as like just love. Like love, happy rainbows and stuff. But you need more than love for it to be a good marriage. And finances end up being one of the main reasons for divorce. So like when it comes to me, because I'm also in the dating world, I'm going to ask a man about his finances. I know what I'm trying to do with my life. I need to make sure I have a partner who's going to complement that. So to me, I feel like there has to be a give and take, which to me lends a transactional situation for a marriage.
Marriage as a transaction is interesting, especially in the United States, where there's a very strong, like, Christian element into things, where it's this spiritual, holy union before God. That doesn't sound like a transaction. So when you start saying transactional, I'm sure there's a lot of people who hear that and probably get a little upset. So can you explain a little bit how a marriage is transactional?
It's a give and take. I'm trying to think of the best way to say it. Because I'm
well,
just going
give
to
and take. It's another way of saying quid pro quo. That's clearly a transaction. But what is given? What is given and what is taken?
Time, effort, money. Those are the three biggest things that you can give and take in a marriage.
Don't forget loyalty.
Loyalty. But like when you're dating someone, if someone can't give you the time that you want, why would you marry them? If money is important to you and they can't be generous or they can't provide you the life that you want, this is where it's going to get hot. But like, why would you marry them? Why would you subject yourself? I know you're going to say love. You love them. You love them. But when I look at the stats at what leads to unhappy marriages, I think early on people put love over everything else only to find out that love by itself isn't going to work. There has to be more.
You can't have a successful marriage on love alone?
I don't think so. You can love someone, but you can love them from a distance.
I just want to point out, I am talking to a divorce attorney here. So
am I jaded?
Well, no, this is I think the first thing is going to say, well, she's a divorce attorney. She just sees the worst of the worst. So obviously she thinks these things. But what kind of data are you working with personally that leads you to this conclusion?
It's money that leads to most divorces. It's infidelity.
Infidelity is second.
Yes.
Wow.
Infidelity. So in my head, you're not getting something from your person and you're going out and seeking it elsewhere.
Is there a common thread you see in unsuccessful marriages where are there commonalities that pop up in the dynamic where you're like, I've seen this before. The man, he's not making enough money. It's been years. He doesn't have a raise. Or here's the girl. She's DMing other guys on Instagram. Or what are the common threads you see?
Instagram.
Really?
So not necessarily DMing, but usually it's the women looking at the men. Like, who are they following? The type of the influencers they're following. I
want to pause real quick. I feel like, tell me how, this is our first hot take of the day.
Okay.
Can I predict the longevity of a relationship based on who a man is following on Instagram?
Sure.
If I go in there and it's bikini model, bikini model, bikini model all day long, I mean, what does that tell you? Does it tell you anything? He's just looking.
He's just looking. But I mean, but if it were me, I can say that from a third party. Like, outside looking in, I can sit there and say, he's just looking. As long as he's not touching, it's fine. I can look at eye candy all day, but I don't engage with it. I'm just looking.
Yeah.
But also, I'm mindful because, like, if someone else is looking at my Instagram and seeing who I'm following, I don't want them thinking I'm weird like that. So I think it's also just how outsiders would portray the situation if they were to see either me or my future spouse or whoever looking at half-naked people on Instagram.
Yeah.
So there's that, and then there's the dating apps. So people getting back on dating apps for whatever reason. I don't know why you would ever be on dating apps when you're in a committed relationship.
You're in the To me, that's all right. There's levels of severity here. The Instagram thing, I'm like, look, I'm not going to judge. There's a million reasons things can happen. I don't do that. I don't follow bikini models or OnlyFans models or anything like that. If I know someone personally and they happen to do that, then that's really the only exception. Just out of respect for because I wouldn't love it if my partner was scrolling and I looked and it's just jacked, tan, tall underwear model guys with the Porsche and a puppy and I'm like, oh my God, please, like I'm doing my best over here. I can't be a 6'5" jacked underwear model with a puppy all the time. Like I could see that being like, am I not enough for you? I could see that feeling happening. So just out of respect for the partner.
Exactly.
But going on to a dating app while you're in the relationship.
It happens.
Oh my God.
So frequently.
How does that happen frequently?
So frequent. I don't know. I don't know. I honestly think dating apps has created this society or this this thought that the grass is greener on the other side.
It's almost like flicking the channel back in the day. For all my Gen Z listeners, you used to have a remote control on a television that would be connected to cable because the streaming apps weren't invented yet. So if you wanted to see what else was out there, you had to push a button and just scroll the channels and hope to God you found something interesting. Or you could go to the TV guide if you were bougie like that. So it feels like we're just flipping channels, but on human beings.
Yep.
And even when you're watching something, back then it would be like commercial break. You're like, I don't want to watch another Tide commercial. Let's see if there's another movie that maybe is more interesting on there. And we can liken commercial breaks on those TVs to you just got in a fight. You just had a disappointing day. You had a date. It was kind of boring with your partner. You can have a boring date with your partner. It's okay.
Or maybe they're in a slump because I think marriage, there's a lot of ups, there's a lot of downs.
It's not just perfect fairy tale all the time?
Of course. Yeah. How dare. So I think when they go through these down phases, they want to see what else is out there.
They start flipping the channel.
Yes.
They're like, oh, I'll come back. But I just want to flip the channel. I don't know. I mean, I really try not to be judgmental, but if you are in a relationship and you're downloading freaking Hinge, like you need to have a serious conversation with your partner. That's what are you doing on Hinge if you're in a relationship? Come on.
I don't know. And I do know. The excuses that my clients often hear is like, well, I'm not messaging them. I'm just seeing what's out there. Like, why?
I don't plan to drink. I just hang out in the bar.
Why even tempt yourself?
See, that's one of those things that I just can't get behind. If you're at that level, you need to have a conversation with someone because, look, we're going to talk a lot about money. We've already talked about it a bit, but don't forget, your most valuable currency is time. It's irreplaceable. You have a finite amount. And what's scary is your currency in terms of time, it's like a bank account you're not allowed to look at because you don't know how much time you have.
Exactly.
And for all I know, I may not make it home today. I don't mean to be grim, but that's possible. I'm going to drive on the road.
Zero out any minute.
Your time is such a valuable currency. And when you do that, when you are in a relationship and you're downloading Hinge, you are literally throwing away someone's precious, irreplaceable currency. It's why I get fired up about employment law.
Yes.
Like bosses taking your time and not giving you enough for it.
And I like that you said someone else's because it's they're not considering what's happening to their partner when they take the actions that they take. They're so worried about themselves finding something better, not realizing that they're wasting someone else's time.
Ooh, that is heavy. I need a sip of this LaCroix right now.
Bougie.
Yeah, I got the pamplemousse. They can't call it grapefruit. That's not fancy enough. They call it pamplemousse. All right. Well, those conversations are tough. What about, you can kind of get a vibe for what's a successful partnership and what's not. What are some of the common threads in the successful partnerships you see?
Watching them communicate.
Really?
So I'll bring up a hypothetical because I need to figure out how to best tailor the prenup to them. And I'm like, okay, in this situation, what are we going to do? And oftentimes I'll watch them talk it out and I can see them going back and forth, trying to work together. And to me, that's one of the main indicators of having a successful relationship, how they communicate. Or even saying like, well, we'll just take some time and we'll come back and discuss it, or they'll book a meeting with me later because they had all these new ideas and questions and now they want answers. But I've also seen people just bicker in front of me.
That's not cute.
And I'm just like, okay, well, y'all talk about it later. Y'all don't have to make a decision right now. It's okay. Like, discuss it later. Come back if y'all have any questions.
If they're bickering, my first instinct would be you probably haven't had this conversation.
That's exactly
and
what
now
it
the
is.
pressure is on, so it's manifesting as you guys are just having friction now. Because now you feel like you're in a corner having to make a decision, but you've never even talked about this before.
Right. Well, and some of the questions I asked, they would never think to know, because it's questions like where I'm thinking truly of a divorce. Like, if a divorce happens, this is a California law. What do you like this law, or do we want to change it? So they wouldn't know. But there are times where I ask questions about income, and they won't know the other person's income. It's things like that where I'm just like, have y'all never talked about finances? How do you not know what your partner makes?
Are you seeing couples maintaining separate bank accounts more often than in the past?
So a lot of my prenups are them having their own individual bank accounts. They would still have a joint bank account, and they just transfer the money into the joint. So
Okay.
it's maintaining a lot of separateness, which I know a lot of people don't want to hear when they think of a marriage because they think you should be one. But as far as assets, finances, they maintain that separateness. And then if they intend for it to become joint, they transfer it to the joint account. And that's what I'm seeing happen more.
Okay. Well, speaking of what's happening more and separateness, has there been a change in the past few years? Who's typically the breadwinner?
Oh, I'm so glad you asked this question. I'm so glad. I would say
I've been psyched for this podcast. You have the hottest take questions of any guest I've had so far, which I want to take a quick thing. I do not deserve your friendship. Full disclosure to everyone. Deveney was on this show a year ago, and we decided it would be really fun to destroy the audio file for that. So we had an awesome conversation that is lost in the ethers of cyberspace somewhere. I'm so sorry. And I remember you were early today. You had to wait for me. I'm so sorry.
It's okay.
You were early a year ago too. I thought about that.
I was.
So I am so sorry. I owe you such an expensive lunch when this is over.
My ears just perked up.
Yeah.
Okay.
We'll address that later. But anyway, please, who is typically the breadwinner?
With my clients, primarily the woman.
What?
Making bukus of money.
I think I hear in the distance JD Vance is violently throwing up right now.
Probably.
I think he's violently throwing up. The woman is the breadwinner. Now, to be clear, for anyone who hasn't heard that slang before, breadwinner just means you're earning the most money in the relationship. So what kind of dynamics are you seeing? Like the women are just in higher paying jobs, they're entrepreneurs, they're professional, and the man's blue collar. Like, how is that dynamic playing out?
I'm seeing most of the women are entrepreneurs, business owners.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. And they make stellar money.
Nice.
Stellar money. And there have been times too where I have prenups where they're both high earning, like ridiculous amounts of money. And I'm like, what do y'all do with all this money? I see what they do. I see all their investments. But I would say primarily now it's the women. When I first started, it was mostly men hitting me up for prenups. And I think because I do try to tailor my marketing towards women.
You're very involved in the San Diego, like, women-owned business community. Like, you have a reputation there. So I imagine most of your referrals are coming from there.
Exactly.
Yeah,
so it just took some time. I was a little, not that I was bummed. I mean, I'm happy to do prenups regardless. I have more of a passion for women because I feel like we just have a later starting point in life. And I just want to be able to protect that. So
interesting.
Yeah.
Do you detect any insecurity, bitterness, shame from the men in those relationships? Because let's just call it how it is. There is still a very strong expectation in America that seems to be getting a lot of attention now, which I'm surprised about. I feel like we're almost less progressive now than we were 30 years ago, where men are saying, no, I'm supposed to be the breadwinner. I'm supposed to be the alpha or the sigma, whatever bullshit they're making up these days. I'm supposed to be the dominant person. So do we see elements of shame, bitterness, resentment, or is it brighter than that? How does it play out when the woman is the breadwinner?
I only see what they show me in like our meetings. So from my takes, it seems fine.
Okay.
I would gather from what I'm seeing from mostly Instagram, because that's where I spend quite a bit of time, and articles. I would gather, though, to talk about what you said about how our country still thinks men need to be in that very traditional role, which I'm a very traditional woman. We'll get to that, by the way. But I think it's just like an identity crisis. I think that's what's happening. And there's a big push and pull happening when it comes to women being the breadwinner and how men are now having to identify with their woman making more money, and how they're also going to be perceived from society if society knows their woman's making more money.
Like, in their minds, they feel like they're less masculine.
Inferior.
We need a reckoning at some point with how men identify with their masculine energy, their masculine identity. I remember being a young man, and I didn't really have the support I wish I had. I had to figure it out the hard way.
Okay.
I mean, I really thought that being a man meant making a lot of money,
Uh-huh.
being the biggest, loudest, most intimidating guy. You had to be muscular and fit, and you had to be able to beat people up and do brave physical things. Like I remember when I was a firefighter, I thought that job made me manlier because it was a quote unquote hard job.
I mean,
well, now I sit here and obviously I've had a lot of life experience. I don't feel that way at all.
really?
Not even a little bit.
When I see firefighters ride by, as a woman, I am just like.
And I respect that. I mean, being the person with that job, I think it is misguided to say, I have a more masculine identity because of the job I have.
Right.
I think that's a very dangerous and fragile hook to hang your male ego on. Because that job could be taken away from you in a heartbeat.
Oh, so quick.
You think you're manly and tough? I'm telling you, slip on a rock at a wildfire, your knee's gone. Guess what? You're not a firefighter anymore.
Right.
Are you not a man anymore? Because you got hurt at an incident? Are you a woman now, as Jesse Waters would say? I mean, to hang your identity on a job, I think is a bad bet. That's just me. Now, that said, if you see firefighters going on their morning workouts, Deveney, enjoy the show. But
look, I said I like eye candy.
I get it.
If I'm being honest, I don't touch. I just look.
Well, so I actually brought some hot takes here, and I think we're in a good place where we can jump into this. And I want to preface this because someone is going to edit this and try to cancel me. I got enemies. I don't necessarily endorse anything that I'm going to say here. These are hot takes. These are old ideas. They're controversial ideas. And I'm with a friend I've known for a long time, and I want her opinion about it. Okay? We're going to start easy.
Are we still going to be friends after this?
Probably not.
Okay.
Listen, this thing doesn't go viral if everything stays nice. I need to get you upset.
Okay. Let's see it.
All right, we're going to start easy. If this is Hot Ones, if you've ever seen that show, we're going to start with the mild sauce, okay? Okay. Just give me your honest reaction to this.
Okay.
All right. Hard work beats talent.
My honest reaction?
Honest reaction.
Yeah, I think so.
Really?
Yeah, I think someone can have all the talent in the world, but if they don't apply it, the hard worker is going to outdo them.
Isn't the point of talent that things just come easy to you?
Maybe, but what do you do with the talent? What are they doing with it?
I think that's a good distinction. So, well, going back to you, I mean, you're an entrepreneur, a successful one, but you weren't always. You worked a regular job. You had bosses. Was there a point where you realized I can do better outside of the office I'm working in than I can inside?
No, it was never my desire to be a business owner.
Really?
Yeah, no, that's just the way things shook out.
It wasn't mine either.
Yeah.
That is so funny.
It's just how things shook out.
I never wanted to actually own a law firm. It just sort of happened. There wasn't a plan.
Yeah.
So how did that happen for you?
Like, how did I start my own business?
Yeah, well, it's interesting because, and mind you, the context here, I had an episode a couple weeks back with Brandon Smith, who was a inmate firefighter in the California correction system.
Okay.
And the first thing he said on that episode was, I never wanted to be a firefighter. I saw Backdraft. I thought it was scary. So I didn't know what I wanted to be in life, but I knew I didn't want to be a firefighter. And lo and behold, he became a firefighter. And then actually started a foundation where he trains firefighters.
You can never say never.
And here you are saying, I didn't want to be an entrepreneur, yet here you are, a serial entrepreneur at this point. So what happened? What went wrong?
The environment I was in. I think I actually told you the story, but it was
on the lost data file that's never gonna. It's gone, Deveney. Yeah. You got to say it again. Okay. I'm sorry.
I was at my dream firm. Dream firm. I was. I fangirled over this attorney like crazy. And then when she offered me a job, it was an automatic yes. And it was during COVID, and I was interning there first. And they found out that I was interviewing at other places. Because I didn't want to put all my eggs in one basket because people were getting their offers rescinded during COVID because all the hiring freezes. And so I interviewed other places. Turns out the partner at the firm I interviewed at is really good friends with the attorney that I like fangirled over. The partner.
That's
at the
like
firm I was
swiping
at.
right on Tinder on your partner's best friend.
Yes, exactly.
Ooh.
And they just happened to go to dinner together one day, and my name came up.
Uh-oh.
And he was like, "Oh yeah, I just interviewed her." So I get a call like a few days later, and they're just like, "Hey, we hear you're interviewing at other places." Yeah. And I mean, I didn't lie about it. I was like, "Yeah," and I told them I don't have anything in writing from y'all saying that I'm gonna go from an intern to an attorney. And I didn't want to put all my eggs in one basket.
I want to say I'm cringing pretty hard because that is awkward. I can't imagine the dinner and then them calling you. But yeah, you're well within your rights. An intern is not an attorney. There's no security there. You have every right to ask around and see what's out there.
Yeah.
Were they cool about that?
They were so cool about it.
Oh, thank God.
They were so cool about it. Because then they came back and they're like, "What did they offer you? We'll match it."
Okay.
And I was like, oh, I didn't need y'all to I didn't say this to them. But in my head, it's like, I didn't need y'all to match it. I just needed a plan B just in case y'all rescind my offer, because they just always told me, like, you always have a place here. We want you. We expect you to become an attorney. They told me the plans that they laid out for me. Like, this was truly my dream job. So they told me they were going to match this other offer. I told them exactly what I was offered, which was a higher pay, more benefits, and they matched it. So they said. So then when I finally passed the bar, and it became time for me to become an attorney, I had my attorney meeting, and they decided they no longer wanted to match the offer.
Bastards.
Yeah. And I remember just like sitting in the meeting, and I probably looked like a ghost. I don't know if Black people can go pale, but I'm pretty sure I went pale.
Yeah.
And I was just
next to me, no one looks pale. So let's be fair about what we're working with here.
I was just the next shade up. That's what
Everyone looks tan next to me. You're in
And so I was like, okay, well, I just need time to process, and I need time to think.
Well, you must have felt betrayed.
That's exactly what it was.
Like they played you. Oh my God.
Because in my head, and there was a lot of back and forth. So I did a lot of negotiating, because they said, this is what we're willing to offer you now. And so probably for like the next 2 or 3 months, there's a lot of back and forth negotiating on what I wanted my pay to be, my benefits. So that means, one, I'm losing out on having an attorney pay, because I'm still stuck on my intern pay while we negotiate.
You're negotiating. Again, you're negotiating money, which is an important form of currency, but you're burning your irreplaceable currency, time, while you do that. That's where it's unacceptable.
Exactly. And I did tell them, I was like, well, me trying to use my contract knowledge at the time, I was like, well, I relied on y'all's offer, though. Granted, it was just orally. It wasn't in writing.
I love you're doing the law school detrimental reliance, throwing it in their face. Exactly. They probably had a little bit of a chuckle about that.
Probably. I was like, because I could have taken this offer and went somewhere else, but I relied on y'all. And they eventually came back, and they were just like, you know what? You're right. We're going to match the offer. But like, the damage had been done.
You didn't last at that firm very long. I remember years ago, I think you and I were having phone conversations contemporaneous with that, if I recall.
Exactly.
Because I'd started my firm a whole like 5 minutes before you started yours, I think. Wow. And now you're here.
And now I'm here.
I love it. All right, on to our next hot take. Okay, these get a little hotter, each one. Okay. There's no such thing as burnout. You're just lazy.
Oh, God, no. No.
Right. Oh, you can't get out of bed. Oh, you hit snooze. Oh, poor baby. Life, so shut up. Go to work.
No. And I hate when someone tells me that, because I already feel that internally.
Like the guilt.
The guilt.
Why does burnout have so much guilt associated with it?
Because we're like in this hustle and grind culture. Like, you can't stop. You can't take a break. You can sleep when you're dead. You can sleep when you're retired. And it's just...
It looks cool on a piece of wall art, but is it real life, Deveney?
It's not.
Okay.
It's not.
So what's up with burnout? Is it laziness? Is it something to be embarrassed of?
No.
Does it mean you're weak? You just don't have endurance? Like, what does it mean to you?
It means my body is telling me something. My body is telling me to slow down. And I truly believe that's why I tore my Achilles, when I just was not giving my body enough time to recover. I wasn't sleeping because I was constantly trying to do the next thing, constantly trying to be better, do better, and achieve more. And eventually my body just gave out. I tore my Achilles, and I was done. It was on my right foot, so I couldn't drive anywhere.
Yeah.
I had to slow down.
Well, you had to slow down because you had no choice. There's
Exactly.
this saying, it's like, if you don't make time for wellness, you'll eventually be forced to make time for sickness. And what people don't realize is, making time for wellness, that doesn't mean go to the gym 2 hours a day, every day, 3 in the morning, work 12 hours, no sleep. So it's funny the disrespect sleep gets in America. it is one of your most important bodily functions. And studies have shown you can get permanent brain damage from depriving someone of sleep for a long period of time. Like, it's not, oh, you're lazy, oh, it's a privilege. Like, human beings need sleep.
Right.
Or
Agreed.
you start going crazy.
Agreed.
Wow. Okay. Look, good answers. We're going to level up the heat a little bit.
Okay.
Money cannot buy happiness.
Oh.
I was grinning when I wrote this one for you. I was excited. Deveney, hit me. Money can't buy happiness.
I disagree.
No, don't let the capitalists win. Come on.
I 100% think money can buy happiness.
Is it just like a perfect slope? Like, the more money you have, the more happiness you have?
I think the more money you have, the more things you can do that can bring you happiness.
What if you're fundamentally just an unhappy person,
Oh.
but I hand you $1 billion? Will you become a happy person?
I would tell that person to take that money, go to therapy
I
to
like
find
that.
his happiness.
You know,
or her
I thought
happiness.
about that because I know people who are very wealthy that are the most bitterest, angriest. Oh my God, they're insufferable.
Yeah.
They're insufferable, especially in an election year. They're just the most bitter, angry people. And it's like, motherfucker, go rent a jet ski for the day.
Go on vacation.
Like, you have everything. You have no reason to be unhappy. At this point, you're choosing unhappiness.
Right. Mm-hmm.
If someone is not getting their very basic needs met,
Right.
they simply are not earning enough money to have their basic needs met. Absolutely. That person's not going to be happy.
I agree.
I agree. If someone's earning minimum wage and they're doing that, I hate when someone, learn a skill. Like, with what fucking time? They're working 12, 13 hours a day plus driving for Uber, all of that to net zero every month. And you're telling them to go to night school on top of that? Fuck you. Tell me you've never struggled in your life without telling me. Sorry, I get emotional when people do that.
No, I like it.
It's like if someone's literally bumming off, like they've got a trust fund and they're making minimum wage in there. But yeah, you lecture that person by all means. But the hardworking person making $1 or $2 above minimum wage, just trying to survive, you don't get to tell that person that they need to work harder.
Right.
And if that person is starting to feel that they don't have access to the world in a way that would make them happy, I think we should listen to that person.
I agree.
Honestly, it sucks. I've been super broke, and I've had.
Same.
I remember when I crossed the threshold where I suddenly realized, oh my God, I can get whatever groceries I want. I can have fresh vegetables. I can have good quality meat. I don't have to choose, am I going to have protein this week or am I going to fill my gas tank? And that was my reality for a long time. And I remember being able to just be like, oh my God, I can have a full nutritious meal and fill my tank.
Right.
And I tell you, the happiness, it was just a 10x amplifier.
Right. Because it's less stress on you. It
It
clears
was
your
less
mind.
stress.
Yep.
There were less things I had to worry about. I remember it was month to month. Like, am I going to be able to afford are they going to come take my car away?
Right.
I didn't have to worry about that anymore, which naturally made me happier. And then also just being able to take care of myself, just being able to eat nutritious food and afford a gym membership.
Right.
And I was like, this is great. Now, what's funny is I crossed that threshold and I still have experiences. Next week, I'm going to go on vacation. I'm going to go to Hawaii. It's going to be fun. And that's going to make me happy.
Yes.
And it's a privilege that I get to do that.
Yes.
So for me, there was a threshold I crossed where happiness became more of a choice. I don't know if that makes sense.
It does.
It was like before that threshold,
does.
it was like, look, I can be as positive as I can. I'm going to fight to stay positive, but it's really hard to be happy.
Right.
Because I'm just getting kicked in the nuts every day. But once I crossed that threshold, and it's going to look different depending on where you live and what your needs are and all that stuff. I remember I crossed that money threshold and I was like, well, happiness is a choice now. And that's something I think a lot of people aren't ready to have an honest conversation about.
I agree. And it costs nothing to be happy. Well, it costs, that's not even true. But it does cost nothing to be nice to people. And I think when you're happy, you're nice. I don't know where I was going with that. I think I originally wanted to say
easier
it
to be
costs
nice.
nothing.
Some of the saddest people I know are the nicest. It's a tragedy.
Oh.
Well, you know what it is? I learned this recently is for some people, the kindness they give, it's it's almost like this is the kindness I wish someone would give to me. And in a way,
Yes.
by giving that kindness, I'm
Expecting it back.
experiencing it.
Oh, never mind.
Well, expecting it back, I think you hope it comes back.
You
hope it comes back.
Yes.
That's something I've been trying to do is because I have my bad days and I'm like, just be extra nice, be extra, because even though you're not receiving it, you're still experiencing it.
Okay.
And as much as you're experiencing niceness, it's hopefully going to keep you from devolving into being angry and bitter.
I just hope, I believe in karma. So I'm just like, if I give off good vibes, positive energy, kindness, happiness, I'll receive more of that back. So that's what I try to do to make sure I have like good days. Just make sure that I'm giving that upbeat.
This isn't on the list,
positivity.
but can you have days where you're an ass? I mean, we're humans. Can you have days where you are just the worst version of yourself, but still be a good person?
Yeah.
If you you get into a nasty political argument with that weird uncle of yours and you call him
It's
a
literally
gross,
my uncle.
deplorable. Yeah.
It's really my
But
uncle.
If you do that, and you feel gross after, I can't believe I sunk to that level. I can't believe the names I called him. Can you still be a good person?
In that moment, probably not.
You're not your best self.
I'm not my best self. I think deep down, I'm still a good person. I'm well intentioned. But I'll give an example. I literally had a huge fight with parts of my family who derive from my uncle's side, or my uncle's branch. It's my cousins. Specifically on politics. And it got to the level of like some really nasty things being said. Wow. To the point where like the rest of my family had to step in and was like, we are done.
Wow.
This conversation is over. Like, stop.
Did you feel ashamed after that?
No, I felt good.
Really?
I felt good because I'll say I'm probably the only person in my family who is very outspoken. And I feel like with these parts of my family, it's my uncle, I'm just gonna say it. With my uncle and my cousins, they're also really outspoken, but they like silence my family. And that's what it feels like. And so I feel like I'm the one who has to like speak up.
Like they're outspoken, and because their voice is so loud, you feel like it drowns out the voices of other people. So it sounds like it triggered a protective instinct in you. And I know for me, the most shameful, unreasonable behavior I've ever exhibited in my life that I'm not proud of, it's when that protective instinct got triggered. I am not proud of the person I become if I think that a family member has been treated unfairly. And in the moment, I just see red. I remember once my mom was mistreated at a hospital by someone and I went berserk. And I am deeply ashamed of the things I said and how I said them. There was a better way to do it. But in the moment, I was like, you don't come from my mother that way. Like, but I think I'm still a good person. It was clumsy and wrong how I expressed those feelings. But deep down, my feeling was just, be fair to my mother, please.
Right.
Like I wasn't trying to hurt anyone. I just wanted her to have a good day.
Yes. Yeah.
And I was just clumsy like a baboon about how I did it.
It's okay. Yeah. It's okay. We all have those moments. I will say though, after my moments, because they are my family, and I do want to make sure our family doesn't remain ever divided. Yeah. Even because of political issues. I did come back later. I apologize for how I said it.
That was big.
But I still said the sentiment remains the same.
Wow.
But I could have went about this in a much better way.
Good on you extending the olive branch.
They didn't take it.
Because they didn't?
No.
You tried. You can't control other people. We're going to run out of time, and there's some good ones here. Since we're talking politics, let's get into it. I love this. Again, these are hot takes. These are not my views. These are views I've heard expressed that I've brought here to get my friend's opinion on.
Okay.
Women who pursue their careers over having kids will regret it.
Yes and no. I say it depends. It depends.
I think, that's actually a fair way to open that.
Yeah.
The person who said something similar to this got a lot of hate online.
Was it a man?
It was a man.
Okay.
It was a very prominent man. Okay. It's a man who wants to be one of the leaders of the country.
Yeah, JD.
Negative charisma. I'm sorry. Listen, I'm the workers' rights guy. You know who I'm voting for. Come on. That guy has negative charisma. If I was in charge of running the Republican ticket, I would have been like, get someone who at least Democrats can look at and say, you know what? I disagree with that man's views, but damn it, I do respect where he's coming from.
Yes.
Get Dan Crenshaw on there. The
Yes.
guy's like a war hero or whatever.
I agree.
You know, but JD Vance, the guy wears eyeliner and tells women what to do with their bodies. He's fucking weird. He's weird. But anyway, okay, women who pursue careers over having kids will regret it. What do you think, Deveney?
I mean, I just have to give the lawyer answer. It depends. It depends on what the woman wants, because even when I look at myself, I'm 30 years old.
Mm-hmm.
I eventually want a family. And I'm already now thinking, well, one, I don't have a man, but I've pursued my career. I'm only like 3 years into my career, but it took time to get to it.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to continue to build my business, and I want my business to do certain things for me. So that has been my priority.
Yeah.
But it came at the expense of not having kids right now, possibly. So now I'm looking at options of like, I need to start looking into freezing my eggs, because now technically I'm geriatric, which is wild to call a 30-year-old geriatric.
I think men dominated the medical field when those terms were being made. I could definitely see a bunch of 50-year-old doctors in the 60s, and they're all smoking. They're all smoking cigarettes. And they're like, oh, what do you say as a geriatric? After 28, she's an old lady. Like, I could just see an episode of Mad Men with that happening.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't put too much weight on that label.
That's true. That's true. But I will say, like, I do desire to have kids, and I want 3 babies. So it's like, it would have been easier to start earlier to have the kids.
But would it have been easier? Because, again, we talk about the financial side of it. Kids are not free.
They're expensive.
Yeah. They're
expensive.
Well, here's the thing. Kids are 0 down payment. There's no down payment on a kid.
You know what? You actually have a good time too.
It's like a timeshare. They no money down, blah, blah, blah. And then next thing you know, you're locked in 18 years and the carrying costs are killing you.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yes. So bodily wise, I think it would have been easier to have the kids early on. Financially, I could see there being regrets with having kids early on. So I think it's just balance, and it's give and take. There's no perfect right time. There's no perfect planning, because you're giving up one or the other when it comes to it. So a lot of ladies who have kids very early on, I'm going to assume, depending on the type of woman they are, a lot of people have babies and still build their career and still go out and be business owners and still do things. But I see right now a lot of ladies who have kids early on, they've sacrificed their careers. They sacrifice the time in the workforce. They sacrifice retirement accounts to raise a family. Whereas when you're older, you have all those things, but you sacrificed your younger
you're making my wheels spin, because I'm thinking, I'm not going to name anyone and I don't want to hint who they are, but there's people in my life I know who are in their 50s and 60s who were always homemakers, and the kids are out independent, and some of them are kind of like, well, what do I do now? Which maybe that's not a bad thing. I mean, you can have different chapters of your life, and the motherhood, parenthood chapter is over, and now it's time for something new. That's fine. So we have time for one more hot take.
Sure, yeah.
I don't know if this is the hottest one, but it's brought up a bit, and I want to get a very clear answer from you.
Oh, okay.
All right. Men, this is the natural order of things. Natural order of things. Men should be the breadwinner. Women should be the homemaker.
It depends. It's whatever people want. I think it's weird.
If we were going to put them side by side and say, oh, well, this is the way it should be, or one's better than the other, what do you think's ideal?
I don't think anything's ideal. I think it's whatever is going to make people happy. So, look, but like for me personally, I'm very traditional. I want a very traditional relationship. I say there's some modern aspects to it, because I don't want to be completely financially dependent on a man. I don't want to put myself in that type of situation.
Well, that's a dangerous position to be in, because even if it's love, 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 he'll never betray me, everything's fine. Again, that man has a heart attack. He
gone.
Rolls his ankle at work, and he can't earn the money anymore. One of you has to be able to make money.
Right. Or he dies. He what if I'm so dependent on him, he dies? How am I supposed to run these finances? Like,
well, that could be part of the plan if you're the 90-year-old rich guy.
Could be.
That's
it
dark.
could be my plan the
That's
entire
so
time.
dark. That's so dark. Okay, so what is your opinion then? Because you are a breadwinner in your own life. You're making your own money. Are you saying you want a partner who earns more than you and takes care of you, and maybe you don't own your business anymore?
So, and I've had this conversation. I think what I'm trying to build is for my business to continue to run without me constantly being in it. Because what I'm wanting to avoid is having to choose between my kids and then my business. Because I grew up where my mom was constantly working. She couldn't make it to my volleyball game. She couldn't make it to my events. And I don't want that for my kids. So I don't want to be completely dependent on somebody. So that's why what I'm trying to build is my business to be able to run on its own, and it can still be a source of income for me, and or make sure I have enough money saved up, my investments pretty sizable, so that way if anything ever happens to my husband, I'm still financially okay on my own.
Do you think, now we're going into you, but we're in the hot take mode right now.
Okay.
Could you imagine yourself with a man who earns less than you? Could you even respect that man? I'm trying to put a little stink on it because, again, these are hot takes. These aren't my views. But could you even respect a man who earns less than you? Because I'll tell you what, there's a lot of YouTubers out there making a lot of money, making young men insecure, telling them no woman's going to want them if they earn less than them.
Well, it's not
But if
true.
there's truth to it, we got to honor that.
It's not true. There are women out there. It ain't me. But there are women
Oh, no, Deveney.
There are women out. That's why I say it depends. Like, you just got to find someone who matches what it is that you're looking for. So there are women out there who literally could care less what a man makes. Because even though there are separateness in finances, a union is still one. So like, if I win, my person wins. If my person wins, I win.
Yeah.
So I do believe in that. I do think there are women who are very happy with men being stay-at-home dads. And so it's out there. You just have to find someone that works for you. Me personally, I do not want to be the breadwinner. To me, it would be too stressful to have to be the breadwinner of a whole nother human.
It sounds like you just don't want another dependent.
I don't, unless they're my kids.
Well, I mean, if he's not a dependent, the guy makes decent money. He just makes half what you make. I don't know what you're making. You don't have to tell anyone. This isn't a secret IRS trap.
I don't want it.
But let's say he's making half what you make.
No. I say no. Look, why are you asking me this? Because I'm going to say never, and then it's going to happen.
Just because of what you're saying, I love it. You're going to end up with a personal trainer who makes $20 an hour, and you're going to be like, I disown the podcast.
Oh, my God. Look, he better put me in the best shape of my life, though, especially after I have his babies.
Well, I think I like that example because it's like we said in the beginning, your income is not your worth. It's what you're earning, and it's not. I get so frustrated at people who say, oh, if you're a working 9-to-5, you're an employee, you're a loser. You got to be an entrepreneur. You got to make $1 million a year. It's like the circumstances that every person is dealing with. You see the snapshot of someone and you make so many assumptions about them.
That's true.
You know, there's someone in my life right now where people may not realize that she is taking care of her mother, and her mother is completely dependent on her, medically, financially, everything.
Right.
So whatever money you think she ought to be earning, like, why don't you have investments? Why don't you have a home? Why are you so lazy? Why are you going on vacation? It's like she is fully keeping another human alive who is in a critical condition. So there's an uphill fight that you don't see with a lot of people.
That's true.
There's an uphill fight people have that you don't see. And it's so unfair to say, you know, oh, you don't make this, you don't do that, so you're not smart. But that leads to another question.
Okay.
Masculine versus feminine energy.
Oh. I like this topic.
Is being the breadwinner a masculine trait?
You're asking someone who's very traditional. So my answer for me is, in me and my relationship, yes.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
And I do feel, so when you ask me, could I respect someone who makes less than me? I so badly want to say yes, but I also know that it's going to be in the back of my head. So maybe it's a therapy situation. I don't know. But I just know the dynamics it's going to have for me, because I've already pictured what I want for my life. Like, I already know I want a very traditional relationship to where I can be more of the stay-at-home parent for my kids. So like I already know what I want.
I see that.
So anything that's not going to allow me to do it, I don't want it.
Does this distinction of masculine versus feminine energy even make sense in 2024?
I think with where our society is now, no. And yes and no. I feel like I'm not giving you the clear answer you want. But I say yes and no because I think it's important for people to have both. The masculine and feminine side. I feel like there has to be a pull. But I think there's something that I've learned, especially now that I'm dating, where a lot of men need me to pull back into my femininity so they can feel more masculine. Because I'm aggressive.
Does that feel like but doesn't that feel like you're turning down the volume on who you are because of someone else's insecurity? Like, it's not your responsibility to make him feel manly. That's some shit you got to work out on your own, dude.
With certain things.
Yeah.
With certain things. So, like, asking for help. I don't ask for help. I'm like, I can do that by myself. Why do I need you to do that for me? Like, but that's what they need to feel like they're of some use to me.
No, I'm just laughing because there are people who would literally rather die than ask for help. And
that is me.
Yeah, okay.
That is 100% me. Or, I don't know. I just never really received a lot growing up. Also, I don't have a good father figure. So, like, I don't know how I'm supposed to be treated by men. So I just watched my mom play, like, both roles. So it's like, I can literally do all this. Like, I don't need you.
Yeah.
And, of course, no man wants to hear, I don't need you.
You know what? I don't know. Maybe it depends on your attachment style. If someone is telling me that they need me and I am their happiness, and that would freak me out a bit. It's like, it sounds like you need to work out some of your own independence first before, because how are we going to have an equal partnership? How are we going to have the give and take if you're 1,000% dependent on me for just basic self-esteem?
Right. Well, I think there's some level of dependency that happens in a relationship. Not like
see that, yeah.
You're my all, like I can't survive without you. But I think there's healthy dependency and I think there's healthy independency, if that's a word.
Well, certainly. And where you got me interested was the idea of, men don't like when I exhibit quote unquote masculine traits. And it to me, that just screams insecurity. It's like, no, like the stuff isn't as binary as people make it out to be.
I agree. Yes.
I'm very much like those gender roles, quote unquote, is a spectrum. And the analogy I've get, because someone got really mad. They were like, there's only two genders, you're being woke. And it's like, no. I'm talking about the traits we exhibit in our daily life.
Right.
You know, I have a quote unquote feminine nurturing side. I did it this morning with my dog. Yeah. I kissed his forehead. I told him he was a good boy. I loved him. So I pet him. Cody, if you're listening, I freaking love you, dog. I love you. Yeah, exactly. There we go. You know, that's a feminine trait that I've tapped into. You know, it's the analogy I've given is saying it makes no sense to call someone an introvert or an extrovert all the time because a pure introvert has no voice.
Right.
And a pure extrovert has no ears. Neither of those is a functional adult.
That's true.
So instead, what happens is we see a spectrum where you have introvertish tendencies, extrovert, masculine, feminine, I think is the same way. Final thoughts, though.
Okay.
If you are working for a living, you're paycheck to paycheck, and it's hard right now, does love have to wait? This is the final hot take.
This is going to be the hottest take. Yeah. I feel like you're not going to agree with me.
You're struggling financially. It's tough out there. Does love have to wait?
I already know you're not going to agree with me. How old are we?
This can happen to anyone. You could be 40 and just lost your job. You can be 20 and trying to make a name for yourself, but you don't have daddy money to play with. The point is you are struggling. You're paycheck to paycheck. Does love have to wait?
Yes.
Ooh.
I think there's other priorities that need to happen. It's like the Maslow's hierarchy of needs.
You know, I was just thinking that it is harsh. I know for me, when I was in my 20s, I was so uncomfortable and I was so unhappy because I was struggling so hard. And I felt like a person who had fallen off a boat. I was just reaching at anything. And it was a lot of things for me. It was alcohol. It was just trying to get attention from women. Like maybe that would make me feel good. Trying to make as much money as I could, but no matter what I did, it just didn't work out.
Right.
And so I was in a place where I was so unhappy. I thought, well, if I have a romantic partner, that'll make me feel better. It did not. I dated girls, and it was the same problems. I was still struggling. I was still drinking too much. I still wasn't earning enough money. It was painful, but if I were to go back and give my younger self advice, I'd say, get your mental health and your basic needs met first. Just get yourself to a point where you can afford your groceries. You can, and I know it sucks and it's uncomfortable, but if you throw a relationship in with that, like you try, it makes it way, way harder. There's just a dynamic there. So look, love is going to come. You can't predict it. You can't predict who you're going to meet. And who knows, that person you meet might be the key to your career future. I don't know. It could be. But I think just focus on you, focus on making yourself a stable, complete person first, and then focus on a romantic partnership. That's the advice I would give myself, because I wasted a lot of time and money I didn't have chasing people who were not going to make me happy.
Right. Well, then let me ask you a question, because in the dating scene, I feel like men who don't have money probably shouldn't be dating. They're struggling. They shouldn't be dating. That's my thoughts. Only because my thoughts are men's minds are going to be somewhere else trying to get their priorities straight, where they can't even give the right attention and effort into a relationship because they're too busy worried about getting themselves together. Is there any validity in that?
I think it depends on what you're looking for, because you know my value system. Just because you're not earning good money doesn't mean you don't deserve good things. You deserve to go on dates. You deserve recreation. You deserve fun. Those are human needs. Those are human needs. So I'm never going to look at a person and say, if you're not earning enough to really be stable right now, don't date at all. I will say maybe consider not doing it, because you're going to go out and the situation is going to be, you're going to burn gas money. You're going to burn an evening. You're going to burn at least, what's the cost of a date now? Even a cheap one, what, $60, $70 now? It's going up, you know? And
we can go to In-N-Out.
And go to In-N-Out. That's dope, you know? But I don't want to see you in a position, it's about caring. Like, I don't want to see you in a position where you look at your month and realize you dropped $150 on dates that didn't make you happy. But if you find someone and, I'm going to cry, this is beautiful, and they want to go to In-N-Out with you, and they just want to go to a park and play cards with you, and this person gives you peace that you didn't have before, by all means, build from the ground up with this person, because that's a real gem you found there. But that's different than the swipe right. Is it right or left? You know what I mean? So the swipe right, go on a date, burn $100 you didn't have, and get ghosted. And now what happened was you wasted your time, your self-esteem took a hit, and your wallet took a hit. So that's, that's how I see it. Go chase your dreams, but
dating's a numbers game. They're gonna have to.
Don't play that. That's where I draw the line. Don't play the numbers game. If you're struggling financially, this is my advice for younger men. If you're struggling, do not play the Tinder numbers game. If you meet someone and they're genuine and authentic, and you can have the cheap dates, go for it. But you're setting yourself up for a lot of pain and discomfort if you try to play the numbers game on a limited budget like that. I played that game and it didn't work out for me.
And it's a lot of money just like gone.
Yeah. Well, Deveney, I wish we could talk more. We'll definitely have you back, but please, where can people find more of you?
Instagram. So the Prenup Queen.
At the Prenup Queen on Instagram.
The Prenup Queen, yes. Our website, theprenupqueen.com. We also have our law firm, Wells-Gibson Family Law. Okay. And then my podcast, Queens with Big Dreams. So on Spotify, iHeart, and Apple.
And if there's any single men who listened today and thought that they might want to get to know you better, are we open for invitations?
We're... Is it weird to say yes?
No, it's not weird to say yes. You got a platform. Let's use it. Do we have a height requirement?
Ooh, it has to be taller than me when I have heels on.
Taller than you with heels on.
Yes. I'm only 5'6".
Okay, so we got to be 5'10" plus?
Yes.
All right, these are tough standards, but you've heard what she's looking for, everybody.
Hey, and athletic.
And athletic. Got it. Well, we can get into that. All right, Deveney, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
I can't take no loss. I don't even know what it costs. I hit the ground in the